The UN denounced that the population of the Gaza Strip is facing the worst restrictions on humanitarian aid since the beginning of the war a year ago. President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, confirmed that he will be sworn in on January 10th as president-elect for the 2025-2031 term. And Pakistan hosted the 23rd meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, chaired by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who is also the current chairman of the organization. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Tuesday, the UN denounced that the population of the Gaza Strip is facing the worst restrictions on humanitarian aid since the beginning of the war a year ago. The spokesman for the United Nations Children's Funds, James Elder, said the situation for children is worse every day than the last. He kept declaring that the amount of humanitarian aid sent in August to the Gaza Strip was the lowest in a month since the war broke out, and added that there have been several days over the past week when no trucks were allowed in. Elder stressed that earlier in the year, when the UN feared famine in the Gaza Strip, there was a real pressure to open new routes and new access points. However, it is the opposite nowadays. In Lebanon, the ongoing Israeli shelling in the capital Beirut and southern regions killed several people. On Tuesday night, the Zionist army attacked the town of Kana, killing at least 15 people, while 15 others were wounded. The devastated southern Lebanese town still remembers the 1996 Israeli artillery bombardment, which killed at least 100 civilians sheltering a UN compound. In another attack on Wednesday, at least 5 people were killed, including the mayor of the town of Nabatea, after Israeli airstrike hit 2 municipal buildings. And as of September 17th, at least 72 employees of the World Health Organization were killed and 43 were injured in Lebanon. According to the organization, of the 207 health centers located in the conflict-affected areas, 100 are currently closed, while stocks of medicines and medical workers are running low. Also, W.H.O Regional Director for the Eastern Mediterranean, Hanan Balki, described the situation in Lebanon as alarming and stressed that attacks on health facilities prevent several districts from receiving health services when they are most needed. According to the Lebanese Ministry of Health, as of October 3rd, the escalation of the conflict between Israel and Hezbollah left almost 2,000 dead, including 127 children and 261 women, and about 9,400 women wounded. And the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi arrived in Jordan, where he held a meeting with his counterpart Ayman Safadi, aimed at promoting peace in the Middle East. At the gathering held in the Jordanian capital Amman, the top officials discussed efforts to end the crimes and aggressions of the Israeli regime against Palestine and Lebanon. The Iranian foreign minister previously traveled to Lebanon, Syria, Saudi Arabia, and Iraq, among other countries, and plans to travel to Egypt and Turkey as part of his country's diplomatic rapprochement with the nations of the region, seeking to coordinate actions to achieve peace in the Middle East. In the Panama Canal, the Infrastructure Authority reported on Tuesday the number of ships transits fell by 29% this last year compared to the previous one due to the drought. According to data provided by the Panama Canal Authority, 9,944 vessels passed through the waterway during the 2024 fiscal year. That figure represents a 29% decrease compared to the previous fiscal year, when 40,080 vessels passed through the Panama Canal. The authority also reported in a press release that 17 less cargo passed through the canal than in the previous year. And the President of Brazil, Luis Inácio da Silva, presented on Tuesday a legislative project to strengthen the legal framework with penalties for environmental crimes. According to a government statement, the President sent to the National Congress the bill that alters Law No. 9605 of 1998 to increase the penal and administrative sanctions derived from conducts and activities harmful to the environment. The bill plans to change the into prison penalties. Those that up to now could be replaced by paying fines. This initiative stems from public pressure following the wave of forest fires that Brazil has experienced in recent weeks. And also on Friday, October 18th, Cuba will present the 9th report to the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women in Geneva, Switzerland, as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Caribbean nation announced. According to the information, this exercise will be carried out in accordance with international commitments and the political will of the Cuban government for the advancement of women. The Caribbean nation will present itself with undeniable progress in the protection and promotion of all human rights for all people, particularly women and girls, and with necessary tools to address the challenges identified in this area. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, confirmed Tuesday that he will attend next January 10th to be sworn in as president-elect for the 2025-2031 term after officially receiving the invitation from the Board of Directors of the National Assembly of Venezuela. The president informed this from the 4F barracks in Caracas, where he headed the act of transmission of the High Command of the General Commands of the Bolivarian National Armed Forces. In this context, the head of state publicly confirmed that he received the letter of invitation and that he will formally attend the fulfillment of the oath according to the Constitution.
I have already received the invitation from the Board of Directors of the National Assembly to be sworn in as constitutional president for the period 2025 to 2031. Next January 10th, before the Federal Legislative Palace, before the Sovereign of Venezuela, and I publicly confirm that I have received the letter of invitation and that I will formally attend the fulfillment of the constitutional oath, according to the Constitution, before whom the winning candidate is sworn in, once promulgated by the electoral power.
This Wednesday, a high-level Venezuelan communications team arrived in China for a series of meetings with media and government representatives. The delegation is headed by Communication Minister Freddy Ñañez, Deputy Communication Minister Joan Gil Rodriguez, and teleSUR President Patricia Villegas. The delegation will remain in Chinese territory until October 20th. From there, they will travel directly to Russia to take part in the BRICS Forum, one of the most awaited events of this year. And the President of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, signed the Indigenous Authorities Decree, which establishes the rules for indigenous peoples in environmental matters and the development of their competencies of their authorities. In a ceremony at the Casa de Nariño, President Petro said that the regulation will grant indigenous communities the same power that regional autonomous corporations have and will establish effective coordination with other authorities and state entities. On the other hand, Petro also mentioned the upcoming Biodiversity Summit COP16 to be held in Cali. He affirmed that this is perhaps the most important international event that Colombia has ever held and that only the People's Republic of China will send 300 representatives.
No one can teach any Colombian and any institution in Colombia, in Latin America, how to build the vital balance between human beings and nature more than the indigenous peoples of Colombia and the Americas, so this decree promotes indigenism.
We have signed with the President of the Republic the decree that establishes the indigenous authorities as environmental authorities for their people and their territory. We could liken this measure to the justice that they already have, and therefore this exercise of environmental authority over their territories and populations becomes complementary and concurrent with the exercise of the environmental authorities and the national environmental system.
In Argentina, the General Secretary of the Student Center of the Faculty of Philosophy and Letters, Luca Bonfante, stated that at least in 100 public university students are carrying out some kind of ongoing protest action. In this sense, Bonfante expressed that at the moment there are more than 100 faculties occupied and that in these occupations there were assemblies, public classes, and that this situation would continue for the next few days. During the week, students from the faculties of Chemistry, Biochemistry, and Pharmacy of the National University of San Luis, as well as the universities of Luján, Tucumán, Rosario, Catamarca, La Plata, Salta, and La Pampa, also joined the protest. The government of Argentina finally sent to Congress the Leaf Litter Bill, proposed by the Minister of Deregulation and Transformation of the State, Federico Sturzenegger, which aims to eliminate 70 laws established in the country. Sturzenegger defended this action, stating that the law promotes legal certainty and removes obstacles to personal development and the development of the country as a unit. Among the laws to be repealed are 8 laws from 1951 to 1983, established under the presidential mandates of Juan Domingo Perón and Estela Martínez de Perón, and also under the dictatorships of Juan Carlos Onganía, Alejandro Lanús, and Reinaldo Vigdone. The National Federation of Secondary Education Teachers in Uruguay has gone on a 48-hour strike to reject the government's education reform and budget cuts. As part of the mobilization, the union members occupied several learning centers in the Uruguayan capital, forcing them to suspend their classes. During the 2-day strike, there will be mobilizations, internal assemblies, and meetings with parents and students. A march along the W.H.O de Julio Avenue is also expected on Wednesday, 16th morning. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcasts, and some more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. Pakistan hosts the 23rd meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, chaired by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who is also the current chairman of the organization. The SCO, founded in 2001, supports key delegations from new member states such as India, Russia, Iran, and China, which will hold the presidency in 2025. The aim is to foster security, economic, and political cooperation across Eurasia. Before meeting for the formal proceedings, Sharif received the leaders and staff of the member states. The Prime Minister, opening the meeting, highlighted the government's ongoing efforts to eliminate terrorism and overcome a severe economic crisis. Other SCO members include India, Pakistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. In the United States, a recent poll conducted by the Hispanic Federation and the Victoria Latina Foundation indicates that Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris leads Republican candidate Donald Trump by 56%, with 31% among Latino voters in 7 key states. Poll released Tuesday shows that the Democratic nomination has sparked enthusiasm among Hispanics in key swing states. According to the poll, Harris leads in each of the 7 swing states, with favorable ratings in each state ranging from 54 to 58%. In addition, this poll, conducted October the 2nd, shows that 60% of respondents are more interested in voting in the election after Harris' arrival. And also in the United States, Boeing factory workers staged a large demonstration in Seattle on Tuesday to demand better wage deals. This strike was made as a way of increasing pressure on new CEO Kelly Ortberg to end a bitter strike that has plunged the aircraft maker further into financial crisis. Factory workers declared that the recent 17,000 job cuts announced by the company will not deter them from continuing to fight for higher wages and improved pensions. Washington State's top congressional Democrats added pressure on Boeing, calling on both sides to reach a mutually beneficial agreement.
Unless we gave up our pension, stagnated wages, took a massive cost shift on health care, Let's not forget the sacrifices our members have already made to secure the jobs right here in our communities for our members, those that follow, and everyone else.
The UN warned that nearly 3 million people have fled Sudan after 18 months of warring and still growing exodus, with 25,000 people fleeing to neighboring Chad in the first week of October alone. Mahamadou Diane Balde, UN Sudan's regional refugee coordinator, stated that the 3 million mark will likely be crossed in the next 2 to 3 weeks. He also pointed out that the fact that the figure approaches 3 million is a disaster directly linked to the increasing brutality of the conflict. War has raged since April 2023 between the Sudanese army under the country's de facto ruler Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the paramilitary rapid support forces led by his former deputy Mohamed Hamdan Daglo, and it left tens of thousands dead.
For the Sudanese, because of the brutality of the conflict, because of really the brutality, the intensification of the conflict, in less than 18 months, we have almost 3 million people. These are refugees, asylum seekers, South Sudanese nationals, for example, who have gone back home. So we're facing perhaps the biggest protection crisis we've seen in recent decades. That's Sudan today, unfortunately.
And the government of Zimbabwe requested to join the BRICS bloc of countries with the purpose of boosting the economic development of that African nation. In the words of the Minister of Publicity and Information and Broadcasting, Jan van Muswere, Zimbabwe shares many historical ties with most of the BRICS countries, the organization that can also be a platform for them as a country in terms of trade and industrial growth. The official also stressed that the current global media landscape is marked by a series of challenges dominated by westernized narratives fueled by disinformation. The next BRICS Summit, Kazan 2024, will be attended by delegates from 30 countries, including approximately 24 heads of states. October 16 marks the 71st anniversary of the History Will Absolve Me, Fidel Castro's historic self-defense plea in the trial for the assaults of the Moncada and Carlos Manuel de Céspedes barracks in Santiago, Cuba and Bayamo, respectively, on July 26, 1953. On October 16, 1953, at the trial of the Moncadistas for the assaults on the Moncada and Carlos Manuel de Céspedes barracks, Fidel Castro assumed his defense and that of the rest of the assailants. This defense was later turned into a book entitled History Will Absolve Me. On June 18, 1954, from prison, Fidel Castro wrote this to his comrades, Melba Hernandez and Jaide Santa Maria, and one of the most important letters in the history of Cuba, in which he asked them to distribute his plea for self-defense, in which he described the 6 main problems affecting the Cuban people in the 1950s. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.